Okay, guys, whew, let's start. How well do you hear me now? Yesterday I was super bored and I went on Instagram and did one of those ask me anything stories, and you guys asked me so much stuff that I love. The most common question that I got is, how do you afford to travel? Because yeah, I'm 21 and this year alone, this 2018, I've already been to Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, India, Japan, Spain, the UK, Ireland, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Paris, the Netherlands, and next month I'm going to Jordan, Israel, Lebanon, Australia, Bali, Singapore. So yeah, how the heck does a 21-year-old travel so much without having like a 9-to-5 job? So I'm gonna give you some tips so you can do the same and we can all travel happily ever after. Yes, yes, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. I'm sorry, but you have to say bye-bye to your old best friends because you have a new best friend right now, and that is freelancing. Freelancing is gonna be your best friend forever. I'm telling you, not if you're a lawyer, maybe, not if you're a doctor, but if you're into like communication, photography, videography, into like all these artsy things, freelancing is gonna be amazing and I can't wait to see you do your magic. People that are not familiar with the term freelancing, it simply means, how do I explain it? I have a regular job, but I can do it on the go, wherever I want in the world. And the good thing about freelancing is that you don't have to stick to one only job and one only income. You can do several jobs, you can work for several companies at the same time. I honestly think that having a 9-to-5 job in an office is so old school. Like, you really don't need to be in an office so many hours doing what you can do in your own house or in a hostel or in a hammock in Bali. Change your chip and instead of applying to 9-to-5 jobs, apply to freelancing jobs. Or instead, just do temporary jobs as, I don't know, bartending or as au pair or babysitting. Oh my god, one of my friends right now just got a babysitting job in Bali. And she's gonna be there for 1 year, everything paid for, and she even has a salary. Like, how cool is that? Just for taking care of a baby. The one that I adore the most is Airbnb. Airbnb literally changed, I wish this was sponsored, but Airbnb literally changed my travel game. So whenever I'm traveling or whenever I plan on traveling, I rent this house. Another option, and it's how I started traveling, is study abroad. Sometimes, and more if you're from the US, studying abroad can mean saving up so much money because the US has so many like education fees and I don't even know, but you pay way too much for education. And in Europe we pay nothing or very little. Go to your college and ask whoever you have to ask, I don't know, dean? I don't know who you ask. Maybe email? I don't know. Ask whoever you have to ask, a professor or something, about the opportunities of your college to study abroad. How to save money before traveling, like what the heck do I do to get the money before traveling? Before traveling, prioritize. I am a very cheap student, not student anymore, but I'm gonna live as a student the rest of my life. I personally don't need luxury. I love shopping, I love fashion, I love eating out, I love going out, blah 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 blah. But I love even more traveling. So instead of going shopping every week or every month, use the clothes that you already have, or you know what you spend money on. So just like analyze it and think how you can like reduce it. Also, I know I said this a lot, but it annoys me very much when people say, I cannot afford traveling, I don't have money to travel. And then they go every single weekend partying. They go every single weekend for drinks. They get that mojito every single weekend. On Sundays they go for brunches. That's awesome, do you? Like, if you like them, do it. But then, if you have money for an avocado toast, you have money for traveling. Those 50 pounds a weekend that you spend on whatever you're spending it on, just save it, because in a week that means you have one trip to Italy, fully paid, or Barcelona, or wherever you want, honestly, in Europe. And in a month, that means you have a trip, a whole week trip to, I don't know, Thailand. What to do while planning the trip, how to save money while planning it. You have different options when traveling. Maybe it's just a regular backpacking trip, or maybe it's volunteering. Do you want to volunteer in another country? Maybe like teaching English, or if you're a doctor, maybe, I don't know about doctors, I don't know what they do. Organization that I always volunteer with and I love and I travel so much with them, it's ISEC. I'm gonna put the link right somewhere. Just go to isec.org, I think it is, and put the country that you want to travel to, so say like Myanmar or Indonesia or Zanzibar or I don't even know, wherever you want. And it will tell you all the volunteering programs. And the good thing about ISEC is that it's very cheap to travel with, and it's 6 weeks. You can also volunteer, but for hostel or for whatever you want. There's a website called Workaway. I have never used it, but I always like just check what they have. You can find jobs in a hostel or in a restaurant or in a farm or wherever in exchange of accommodation and sometimes food. But if you just want a backpacking trip with your friends or solo, now I'm gonna share the tips for that. Planning your trip. First of all, book a cheap flight. Like, this is so obvious. I know that you're like, how do I book a cheap flight? All flights are so expensive from my country. That's not true. That's not true. It simply means that you don't know how to search it well. Obviously, some cities or some countries are more expensive than other ones, but I have a whole vlog about it. Easy. Also, pack light. Makes you save a lot of money when traveling. You will not have to pay for the baggage fee. What about while traveling, while you are in the country? How do you save up money? Cheap transportation, cheap accommodation, cheap food. So for example, for cheap transportation, instead of getting a flight from Cambodia to Thailand, you can get a night bus. And it's gonna be 5 to 10 euros instead of 100 to just live in the bus. And not only you save money on the actual trip, you also save money on the accommodation for that night, because the accommodation is gonna be your actual trip. Life-changing. Cheap accommodation. I am a very, very big fan of hostels, and I just can't understand how solo travelers book hotels. Like, it makes no sense. And more if you're young, there's two types of hostel: the fancy luxurious ones and the regular hostel, which are like cheap and like very basic. And what I usually do is just mix them. So for example, one week I'll go to like fancy luxurious ones, which is like 10 to 20 euros, not that expensive, and then stay like a week or a few days in the cheap hostels. The cheap hostels go as cheap as for €1 in Bali. Cheap food. It is so easy to spend a lot of money on food. Going to restaurants seems like the most obvious option. Minimum 15 euros for a meal in each restaurant. That's already like 45 euros a day. There's a cheaper way, which is going to supermarkets, buying your food there, or going to local markets or like local restaurants, and it's gonna be so much cheaper. In Japan, restaurants are pretty expensive, but supermarkets have the best food I've ever tried. It's not a joke. And like, markets are amazing. And last, what if you spend all your money or lose all your money or your money gets stolen? What happens now? First of all, don't worry, don't freak out, because that happens so much. And I have been in this situation at least 4 times in the past 2 years. I either spend all my money because I'm like, oh, cute elephant pants, oh, cute rings, oh, cute, and then I just don't have money. Or your card gets stolen. So what do? Cry a little bit, that's fine, that's fine. Call your parents and be like, oh my god, I don't have money, I'm stuck in Indonesia forever. Poor you. You can always ask hostel friends if they can lend you money and you can PayPal them. But if you're like super duper stuck, go hostel to hostel, go restaurant to restaurant, go bar to bar, and ask if you can volunteer in exchange of accommodation and food for a little bit until you get your money back. If you budget, you will not have that problem. Just try to make the best out of your trip. Prioritize your spendings. It's too hot, so I'm just gonna leave it here, okay? Bye. Follow me on Instagram. Please just subscribe and follow.